that's what really bothers me, you know, is that we have to kind of like start thinking, oh, we don't want to say this, or don't, you know, I think once we get to that, we start to censor ourselves even subconsciously, you know, and I think that's something
I also think that people necessarily being unable to recognize complex satire can lead to misunderstanding the original material. Like, for the time I hear movies is Sucker Punch.
I'm sorry.
That's very much a pro-feminist movie that most people view as the opposite.
Well, it's pro-feminist. The guy Zack Snyder just fucked it up completely. He was trying to be satirical, but I think he failed.
Yes, he was attempting satire on, I think, multiple layers that people who were immediately engaged in the film did not recognize. I mean, and I think that a possible, much more direct approach to telling the story, to basically letting the audience know from the very beginning, I'm taking serious self-satire, making it into a film and showing it to you, would have made it a lot more clear and given a lot more people a much more complex view into the material itself.
Well, see, I disagree with that on a lot of levels. First off, I would talk about, like you say, this would just be a film criticism, this discussion, where you would say, well, I thought the satire worked, I thought it worked on these levels. I would say, I don't think the satire worked, even though I agree with you that that's his point. Here's my reasons why I think his satire worked. You know, that's where we have getting to a discussion. But I don't think putting in the front this is satire changes the fact that the movie is just women just with no clothes shooting nothing. You know,
the point of the movie.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of other problems also going on. It's hard for me. It's kind of like why I don't like Kill la Kill, which kind of does the same thing. Even though it is trying to be pro-feminism and it's, you know, trying to get a commentary on how a lot of anime female characters don't wear a lot of clothes and also, but at the same time it's also that, which it's a hard thing to do. That's why satire is so hard, because you ride the balance of being a joke and also just being the thing that you're trying to criticize.
The difference is Kill la Kill, I think, approaches very much a third wave feminism approach.
What do you mean by third wave feminism?
Like
No, hold on. The third, because a lot of people have different definitions of the third wave feminism.
Yeah, I'm saying the more general broad definition of basically that being, I guess what many would consider falsely empowering, or an empowerment statement that is also sort of coupled with some traditional ideas that we relate to misogyny can, in fact, be empowering. That's just a general feminism statement.
I don't agree with
that. I mean, the elements of Sucker Punch are actively arguing against Kill la Kill's approach, and then it shows that this approach that Kill la Kill takes of having very clothed people fighting in an attempt to display an empowerment fantasy is actually itself blanket.
I mean, it's hard because anybody can do that, really. Anybody can say it's a satire. You can go up and have like all these naked people, and they're all having lesbian sex with each other, and they're like, oh, it's satire. I mean, it doesn't make it satire. I mean, it's technique like anything else. I think you can fail at it, you can be good at it. I would say like Sucker Punch was not a great satire, even though I agree with you, that was probably his intention. Thank you. I mean, honestly, thank you so much.
She has been waiting like the most.
Yeah, she is really excited. I'm very excited.
First off, I just want to say that I really appreciate that you are doing some back and forth with the people who come up to this microphone, because in a lot of cases, things like this, you don't get it. You know, the panelists get the last word because you can ask a question, hear an answer, and if they avoid your answer, if they avoid your question or in any way, you know, don't engage what you were trying to get. This really empowers the audience more. So
I just like people talking to me. It's really what it is. I just like the attention. No, thank you. That means a lot to us.
One of the reasons why I think this is better.
Thank you.
It takes up a little bit of time. And I just wanted to mention a couple of things about. I just wanted to bring up a couple of points about the morning conversation.
Yeah.
One thing is that trigger is not just something that's made up. It's actually a recognized psychological position.
No, I agree with that.
And just because now we're starting to discuss it on a wider level does not mean that it is something that people who have been going to therapy for significant traumas have not been, counseled to avoid for a very long time, but they haven't really been empowered to do so. And I think that when having this conversation about trigger warnings, it's really important to think about the fact that, our social awareness about the things that people go through that are around us that we don't know about is at an unprecedented height You are able to be a much more educated feminist than you probably would have had the opportunity to for, any other point in history, not just because, maybe you would be able to read some feminist theories, some academia, some books, but now you can listen to the first-person experiences of people who would have never been able to share that with you on the internet, with women from all parts of the world, from all kinds of backgrounds, from all kinds of socioeconomic statuses, and that's something that's new. And, when you look back at the history of how we've come to start recognizing things like institutional racism and sexism, and how that is held back with whole groups of people, and how that, interacts with pretty much every aspect of a person's life that you would never necessarily be able to see. Specifically with trigger warnings, to recognize that most of us, and I have absolutely no idea, that's part of the point about who this question is, but I'm assuming that most of us are having this discussion from a position of privilege. And that position of privilege is somebody who does not have to deal with potentially going into a panic attack or potentially having, and if you are that person, you mentioned that that person probably has a good therapy. The thing is, if that person knows they have a trigger, they probably have to go to therapy. It's not something it's not a magic pill, and these people who, are at risk of flashbacks or at risk of dangerous episodes, dangerous psychological episodes, and who are suffering, it's not really your business for them to tell you, and it is a kindness for you to give them the opportunity to avoid, what you have to say. They're not telling you to shut up. They're just asking you, can I not be here? Can I choose to not be here for my own reasons? And I know that it's inconvenient, but the thing is, I'm not saying that some of your arguments about potential slippery slopes, I think you might take it a little bit far, but that's not my place to say. Every time we evolve as a society, we give something up. We gave up, as we started recognizing the harmful effects of objectifying women all the time, particularly in the workplace, we gave up a little bit of freedom to say whatever we want, and that's true. But it's because we're starting to recognize that people who are not in a position of privilege, they deserve to have, some recognition and respect for their experience, even if it's not ours. And I just think that talking about how people should face things, and they should really be reading about all this. I don't think that's our place to decide. I think that somebody can decide for themselves that they would rather not face that.
What's your name, by the way?
My name is Sana.
Give a round of applause. I really do agree.
Got chills up here.
I really do agree with you. I know it may seem hard to believe, but I really do believe what you're saying. I think all of that is good. And again, I just go back to my thing is that I don't like when people use things like triggers to censor other people. I think what you're saying is fantastic. And that if you're in a situation where you know something that will trigger you, then yeah, you should have the choice. But I've seen people use it to completely censor it for everybody else. And that is really my word.
And I think that's what the divide is. I think
that's the divide. But I agree. What you're saying is fantastic. I think that's absolutely great.
You said it's a kindness that we bestow to people. The problem is increasingly it's not becoming a kindness that a creator bestows. It's becoming something that an audience who isn't necessarily even being triggered is demanding after the fact. Why didn't you post trigger warning on this? Are people caught up on Game of Thrones? Yes. No.
Okay, we're not talking about that.
We literally had this conversation, no one's caught up. You can't.
It's the difference between.
The entire Game of Thrones is an awful world where everything that is good goes to die. You know that going into it. So why 5 seasons in are people surprised by anything awful that they see from Game of Thrones?
Well,
I wish I was just nerds are racing the sexes, they just hate change.
there was an article recently that was, I'm not going to say what happened, because obviously not everyone's caught up. I will not spoil it for you, it's okay.
Absolutely. We're completely in agreement about that.
It was a
The
horrible.
question is whether or not the horrible thing gets to exist. And that's kind of what it often comes down to. This thing is horrible, it's meant to be horrible, it doesn't get to exist.
Which is one of the things of humor like that, and talk like it's kind of the point of it is to shock. Like when somebody is making a joke about rapists, you know, in a positive manner, where it's making fun of rapists. The point is to shock and also to try to learn. Like, yes, this is shocking. That's why we shouldn't be fucking raping people. That's why. You know, and I agree with you. If you were using trigger warnings to dismiss, you know, somebody who would be triggered by it, then I think that is great because I don't want to cause any harm to anybody else. But once you start using trigger warnings to censor the people who maybe want to read it, you know, like you said, well, because I don't like it, nobody else gets to see it, then that's when it becomes censored.
And unfortunately, that's becoming.
And it does happen. I know you're saying I'm exaggerating, but I've seen it a lot. You know.